Well, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 26 of the Fly Forward vlog. I have my dear friend here, Brooke West, who is intimately familiar with Waking Up Gray and creativity and Jesus and solitude and all the things that we talk about here. So I'm going to take this opportunity to interview Brooke, to have her share her story. I think Waking Up Gray is so pivotal in terms of narrative. We all have stories. We all have stories to tell. We all have stories to live. And so I just want to hear your story. So tell us a little bit first about who you are, what your life looks like.
Okay. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have two, well, they're not so little anymore.
Yeah.
I was going to say little kids.
Yeah.
They're a little girl who's 8 and a little boy who's 6. And I am a registered pediatric nurse. And I also wear the label artist now after my time in Waking Up Gray. I actually tell people that first when they say, what do you do? I'm like, I'm an artist.
Oh, I love it. She is, by the way, too. I've seen her stuff.
So I live with my husband and my 2 kids and 2 really big dogs and a cat. And that's what life looks like for us.
Yeah, that's so great. Oh, I love it. And your kids, by the way. I love them.
They're a mess.
They have my heart. So tell me about how you first heard about Waking Up Gray and what was it that felt intriguing on that front end?
Well, that's a really specific story. It's the first moment, like God had his hand very specifically on my time in Waking Up Gray. But the moment that I heard about it was the first time that happened. I was at an art event with a friend on a Saturday morning with a bunch of women, and it was a time when we were talking about and exploring God and beauty and creation and art, like all of that together. And we were talking specifically about collaging, and about God, like using that as a method to engage with God. And the woman who was leading the group, her name's Shannon, and she had done Waking Up Gray with you. So I finished my collage, and I had gotten up to go look at other people's pieces, and when I came back, Shannon was like, Brooke, I have to tell you about 2 of the pieces in your collage. And it turned out they were your paintings. The one of Maggie that's hanging up in your dining room, and then another one of your daughters. And I had taped them to the back of my collage and written your name down because I was like, I need to find her. Obviously I like her stuff. I should look into her. And Shannon told me then that you do something that is all about beauty and art and God and creativity. And she was like, you'll love it, Brooke, you'll love it. And I was at a point in my life where I've always done art, but I have done representative art. I have recreated still lifes and done things with pictures, and but I was at a point both artistically and maybe psychologically, emotionally, where I knew I had stuff inside of me that I really needed to come out, but I didn't know how to. I just didn't know what to do with that. And so that's kind of what brought me to Waking Up Gray. I felt drawn in by the idea of, somehow this is going to connect the things that are inside of me with what's outside of me.
Wow. I still can't get over that story, how we connected.
It's so like, do.
I know, that art can connect people in such a way, that God uses all of these things to connect our lives together. I hadn't seen Shannon in years, and so to hear your story about this dear Shannon, if you're watching.
We love you, Shannon.
We love you. Just that those connections stay and they continue to tell stories. So I love that. Okay, so that's what initially drew you to Waking Up Gray.
Yeah.
So your first experience of it was September through April group in my home studio with a group of us. There were maybe 8 of us.
Yeah, and there were women that I didn't know. It was just a group of women that came together for the study.
Yes. Yeah, and it was such a rich, beautiful group immediately. We went, straight, like, immediately just about
we did not
to
waste
the
time.
depths. Whoa.
Yeah,
it was lovely to watch, and watching all of these things unfold during our group. So then tell us how you went from being a participant, coming to my studio every week, nourishing yourself through creative play, journaling, self-reflection. Tell us how you went from that into leading a group of your own.
Yeah. Well, so when we started our group, the year that I did it at Jenny's studio, I quickly learned. So I did not grow up in an Orthodox tradition. I grew up Southern Baptist. And so a lot of my exposure during Waking Up Gray was to stuff that I was also starting to find in other parts of my life as I started exploring Anglicanism and contemplation and contemplative prayer and slowing down and the rhythms of the church, and just all these different things were kind of perfect storming together. Yeah. And so as we dug into it in the fall in our group, my first thought was, gosh, more people need to know. Like, I'm in a Presbyterian church now, a PCA church, and we're super cerebral. Like, we really love to think about things and to talk about them, but we don't do a great job of engaging our hearts. And as we did our study together in your studio, I was just like, I was overwhelmed with the feeling of, this needs to get out. Like, other people need to know about this. People in my church, in my world, need to know that God is not just a God of your brain. Like, God is not just a God of memorizing scripture. Like, God is a God who is personal and interactive and deeply involved in your story. And so that was kind of in the back of my head the whole time we were going through. It was like, okay, how can I move this forward? How do I get it, like, what seeds do I need to plant so that I can eventually bring this into our church?
Yeah. So you did that this past year. Well, okay, so the first one was kind of you did it out of your home first.
I forgot, I didn't forget about them. I didn't forget about you guys, if any of you are watching this. The first one we did, I called it a kind of a beta group. It was like an exploration. It was a test group. I handpicked about 5 women that I know and love and knew would be honest with me and say, hey, this isn't working, or this is great, or would give me real specific feedback. And so we met in my home, and we did an abbreviated schedule. Instead of September to August or to April, we just did it in the spring.
Right. And you ended with a retreat there.
We did. We ended with, instead of the overnight retreat, we ended with just I think we did about a half a day.
Yeah,
like 9 to 3.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. And
lovely group.
It was a great group. It really was. And the feedback we got afterwards was that the women really loved it. They were super thankful. It hit them. God is so specific in how He has moved through this. That each of those women, it happened at times in their lives when they really needed it, and we're really glad to have it.
Such kindness. Yeah. So then you did that group, and you pulled a couple people, Caroline and Ange, with you as you brought it into your church community.
Yeah.
So tell us about how that process was for you.
Well, that was bringing it into church was a little unknown. I didn't know how many people would be interested in doing it. I knew since I'm a mom with young kids, my kids are in school now, but they didn't used to be. They used to be preschoolers. And I know that particularly a mom at that age really needs time and space for herself, time and space for her heart to breathe, for her imagination to breathe. And so it was really important to me to do the study with our church in a way that provided childcare. And so the first thing I did was work with our children's ministry to make sure that we could do it on a day when childcare was available, and that was going to be a possibility. And so my friends Ange and Caroline were coming in with me to kind of help be kind of co-facilitators if our group got so large. And it turned out we ended up we stayed we had 13 women, and by the time, each week somebody's sick, somebody's kid is sick, somebody's out of town, so we usually ended up with about 8 to 10 people. And it felt like a good size for one group. And so we did it September to April, just like the way that we had done it in our previous group with you. And we alternated doing book weeks, is what I called them, when we did chapters from the book, and then we did art weeks, which sometimes actually you would come and lead them, and we made prayer journals.
Gosh, we did all kinds of things. We did prayer beads, like
the
Protestant prayer beads. We
made
did Advent
wreaths. That was so fun.
We did the journal. We made books for journaling, because the process of Waking Up Gray is really heavy with journaling and self-reflection. So, you know, I always love giving people an option if you're not comfortable with words, well, maybe a visual journal might be more helpful, or maybe you are comfortable with words and you want to display words in a different way than your typical like journaling. So those books created some avenues to kind of explore some different things as you were going through it. So that was fabulous. I got to know a lot of the women that were part of your group this past year, and then we ended up with the retreat. Do you have any suggestions for people who, number one, might be hearing of Waking Up Gray for the first time? What would you encourage them to do? And number two, if they're looking to find a community in their church, maybe in their church community, how would you suggest them going about?
That's a great question.
Reaching out.
I would say if you're hearing about this for the first time, yes, the answer is yes. You should do it. I think community is really important for going through it. I also think that having a guide is really important, to have someone kind of in front who's been there, who's done that. So if this is your first time and you need a community to do it with, and you're local, I know that Jenny does groups, and that would be a great place to start. If it's something that you're ready to bring into your church, then I would just start with looking and examining what's possible. Is your church? My church is filled with young families. Is that the story for your church? If it is, then maybe you can work with your children's ministry and find a way to offer childcare and do it on a weekday morning. Maybe it's something for evenings.
So we are running out of time, but I wanted to let you see. This is Waking Up Gray, and it is a 10-week look at uncovering creativity, lost, injured, stolen, hurt creativity, and having God come alongside of you as a companion. Go to flyforward.org to find out more about how you can get involved, either your own process or process within a community. I will be starting up a group in the fall. Contact me. Go to flyforward.org. Go to the contact page and just shoot me an email, and I will get back to you. I see that. I manage that website. I will get back to you. Thank you, Brooke, so much for joining me for this episode.
It was my pleasure. Nice to meet you
guys.
We'll
see you soon.